I'm a de-occultist. I'm attempting to take this information out of hiding. It's been hidden. The hiding of it is destroying the fabric of our society and putting us into bondage. It needs to come out and be non-hidden. It needs to be unveiled and shared widely and freely with anybody who's capable of accepting it and comprehending it now. Because we're not in a position where we could wait longer. We're at the precipice. Okay, there is a moral obligation to bring this information to the public now.
Hi everyone, welcome to vérité-ou-conséquences.com, a website dedicated to spreading crucial information about natural law, truth, freedom, objective morality, primarily to a French audience. Des sous-titres en français sont disponibles pour cette entrevue dans YouTube. Pour les auditeurs francophones, simplement cliquez dans l'option sous-titres. Today I will discuss with my special guest, Mark Passio, on his current projects and his perspective for the truth community and the freedom movement for the upcoming year, considering the current world situation. Bonjour Marc, comment ça va?
Je vais bien.
Good. First and foremost, Mark, thank you for giving me a little of the two most important currency in the world, time and attention.
Absolutely, no problem. I'm glad that you invited me here. Good to be here.
It's a true honor and privilege to have you on my show today. Mark Passio is very well known and admired in the freedom movement truth community, but here is a little resume I came up with for those who haven't had a chance to study his work yet. Mark is an incredible wealth of knowledge and has many skills and talent. He's a devoted teacher of natural law, a true anarchist, a de-occultist, philosopher, alchemist, independent researcher, presenter, punk musician, martial artist, vegan, a Christ figure of our time, a true inspiration, a guide, a mentor, and a light bearer in darkness for me and many people around the world. For the last 15 years, Mark has produced over 800 hours of podcasts and seminar about occult information, which can mostly be found on his website, whathonoredishappening.com. People must start studying in a stepwise progression his work by starting with podcast number 1 all the way to the latest release. Actually, it should be part of the curriculum in public school all around the world. Mark's invaluable work consists of a tapestry of knowledge about natural law, truth, freedom, objective morality, and human consciousness. Once you are done watching over 800 hours of video, you can also order, in exchange for a donation, the 2 terabyte R 2.0, which consists of a selection of 3,400 video files, 9,500 digital books, and 26,000 audio files. I would say that, in my personal humble opinion, no one is entitled in any way to criticize Mark's work until such individual has done equal or more for the cause of freedom of humanity. In a nutshell, means shut the fuck up is not gonna happen. Question 1. Mark, you've been working really hard this year with your team on producing your documentary about natural law entitled Mark Passio and the Science of Natural Law, as well as setting up a website for the One Great Work Network, which should be up and running early 2021, and which will be a great platform to promote the work of selected content producers, according to the sneak peek I recently got. Can you give us a little more info on your current projects?
Sure. Well, you know, my main project was the What on Earth is Happening live weekly video show. I felt like that was sort of not really, doing the job that it should have been doing. I felt like it was kind of acting as a weight upon me because of all these other projects I really wanted to dedicate my energy to. So I put that on hiatus for a few months. I am going to go back to it, but probably not until at least mid 2021 after these other projects are successfully launched. The main thing that we've been working on at What on Earth is Happening is, of course, the documentary. It's my first full-length feature documentary. It's going to be about an hour long, maybe a little over an hour. It's called Mark Passio and the Science of Natural Law, and it's a primer for people who may not be familiar with the entire concept or the entire body of science that is natural law. And it's introduction to natural law, as basically put forward in my work with pretty stunning visuals in a video timeline put forward. And we've been working on that solidly for the past year, and it's going to be released probably in very early 2021. We're on track to deliver it by that point. And then the next big project is the One Great Work Network. This started out as an idea that I had back in around 2016, 2017, but I didn't really have the resources or the help to launch a project of this size. I wanted to bring in a bunch of content creators sort of under, who I felt were great truth tellers, freedom activists, and people who were good teachers of natural law, bring them all together under one roof, so to speak, and launch a network with all of their content featured. What this would do is give them more, visibility to the whole community, and help them get some resources through donations. So we're going to launch a network. This idea obviously grew over time, and now the response that we've gotten to it has been so tremendous with people who are totally on board with this message of true freedom, anarchy, natural law, objective morality. We got in touch with about 45 content creators who said that they wanted to be part of the project. I was expecting to launch with like 10, maybe 12 tops, but the response to the idea of the network was so overwhelming that we got a lot of people who were very interested in doing this and being part of this network. So when we launch in sometime early in 2021, we're going to have about 40 content creators on board approximately, which is unbelievable. And it's been a big technological project to get underway, as you could imagine, trying to coordinate with that many people just who are content creators, not even with people who are behind the scenes working on this in a technical aspect. So it's a huge project, and we're doing everything that we can to get this technologically ready and make it robust enough to launch, and make it very user friendly and usable. So that's coming. The One Great Work Network is coming in 2021 for sure. My goal is to launch it within the first couple of months of 2021. We'll see how that goes from a technological standpoint. I think we can meet that goal, but the documentary is definitely on track to be released in early 2021, and so is the One Great Work Network. So big things coming in 2021 from What on Earth is Happening and One Great Work Network.
Awesome. And I look forward to personally put my share of content in the network. I really appreciate the opportunity and also the window that it's gonna create for my content. Thank you. I'm really thankful for the invitation.
Definitely.
Um, my second question is, I've been an anti-government misfit punk leaning towards anarchism since my early teen years. But 2 years ago, when I began studying extensively your work, which led me to many other researchers and authors like David Icke, Larkin Rose, to name a few, everything became crystal clear that the cause of most problem on earth is the ignorance of natural law, which result in the current human condition of slavery and the chaos that we see all around us. One of the most revealing video for me was your presentation entitled Cosmic Abandonment. I will put a link in the description below because it made me realize that slavery is not only our current condition, but evidences show that it has been deeply seated in our genes since our creation by some ancient beings thousands of years ago. According to many researchers like Zechariah Sitchin, who studied the Sumerian tablets, these beings have had sufficient knowledge about DNA to manipulate ours in a way that they were able to create a species that had enough brain functions to be efficient workers, but not smart enough to rebel against the authority. Over time, the human race evolved, but mentally and genetically, but in recent history and in recent history became a little more aware of their true natures and power. Social engineers nowadays are doing everything they possibly can to pursue that mission passed on to them by true royal bloodlines by these ancient beings. That mission, which is keeping us enslaved and maintaining our level of consciousness and vibratory state at a very low level through government, social media, technocratic institutions, so that we behave immorally in the aggregate and remain enslaved in accordance with the principles of natural law. In my view, the goal of the magnum opus, or the great work, is to de-occult this crucial information in order to make people aware of this hidden knowledge about their power to change their condition by changing the way they think and behave, so that they truly become good person, manifesting order both inside themselves and outside the world instead of chaos. Can you expand a little more on that not so secret mission of the occult social engineers, and what is the great work?
Absolutely. Well, this is what's going on all around us is social engineering, mind manipulation, mind influencing, straight up mind control, and this is done through the education system. This is done through the mass media. This is done through, everything that we see and hear in publications and in textbooks in school. People have to understand that the way that we behave is ultimately going to be informed by what content we have in our minds. And what informs that is going to lead ultimately to that behavior that gets expressed in the world. That's how reality is built. Something gets taken into our minds, we take that into ourselves, we process it, and then we behave according to what we think, according to what we just processed. And if the information is good and it's sound and it's true and it's in harmony with natural law and objective morality, meaning that we do understand the real difference between right and wrong, then the behavior that gets output as a result of what we just took in and processed and then allowed to, that information to inform our behavior, the behavior is going to be orderly. It's going to be geared toward freedom. It's going to give us what we say we want, the result that we say we want. It's going to result in the manifestation of order, goodness, absence of chaos, okay, or, true order, and it's going to result ultimately in human freedom. If conversely we take in a bunch of mentally manipulated nonsense, okay, that is just put there to try to deceive and manipulate us into accepting lies, not understanding the difference between right and wrong, okay, and then we base our behavior upon that disinformation, bad information, deception, and outright lies. On the other side of that coin, we are going to output behavior that is in complete opposition to natural law. It's going to be in opposition to objective morality. And then the manifestation that we get on the other side is going to be chaos. It's going to be enslavement. It's going to be destruction.
The current
And
world situation.
that's it. And people just don't understand how that dynamic works. They don't understand when good information goes in and we understand what is true and we understand what is right, then our behavior is going to be based upon that. If we use our willpower to bring our behavior into alignment with that, and that's a big if. A lot of people can know what the truth is, but not bring their behavior into alignment with it. We have to also exercise our will through our actions to bring our behavior into alignment with what we know to be true and right. If we do that, we get one result. If we don't do it, we get a completely different result. And the social engineers know this. The dark occultists of the world, they understand how this dynamic works, and they're using it to their benefit by keeping people ignorant of the truth of the difference between right and wrong, selling them a false version of morality that is based in government authority, which isn't true or isn't real or isn't right. Okay, anything that's false is eventually leads to complete immorality, if we take it in and then act upon it. But if we take in and act upon that which is true, we're going to live in a moral capacity and create order and freedom. The social engineers have known this since the dawn of human civilization, and they know it today, and they are willfully acting in the capacity of being deceivers and liars to the entire human species, so that they hold our consciousness down so we don't understand the truth and the objective difference between right and wrong behavior. And so we constantly act in opposition to natural law and condone activity and behavior that is in opposition to natural law. This is a huge part of the whole world situation that has led to the current conditions that we face as a species, is that not only are people ignorant of these dynamics, but they condone behavior that is in direct abject violation of natural law. And that's leading to the worsening and the deteriorating of the current human condition. Not just the behavior itself, it's the condoning of that behavior. So it's all the people who condone government, who condone the violence of government and authority, who believe in authority and believe that these people have the right to do these things. I ask people all the time to consider the notion of kingship, okay, or pharaonic dynasties of the ancient world, kings of the ancient world, warrior priest kings from tribal cults, however, any of those forms of authority that you want to look at it, that was total authority vested in one human being, usually a male, although not always. Sometimes it was a female, but usually it was a male dominant figure, okay? And that individual had unquestioned, unchallenged, absolute authority. All authority was vested in that one being. And they dictated what the law was to other people. They considered the other people in the society their subjects, which is a euphemism. That's a way of saying that they are slaves. Okay, it's saying that I am the authority figure. You are those who are subject unto my will. That's called slavery, right? The kingship of the old world, all the pharaonic dynasties of the old world, any authority figure of the ancient world, that authority figure, whether it's called a pharaoh, a king, and any other name for it, is a master over his subjects, which are slaves. If we stop euphemizing it, we wouldn't even call it kingship or rulership. We would simply call it what it is: slavery. And was that ever moral? Was kingship, rulership, slavery ever in the history of humanity, was it ever moral? Was it ever something that was right for the king to enact upon all of the other people in that civilization? Of course it wasn't. Anybody with a thinking, functioning brain can tell you that situation where one person is the unchallenged ruler or the master, and everybody else is subject unto his will and has to do what he says, otherwise he faces the violence of his henchmen, if they're being honest with themselves, is going to tell people that is an immoral condition. That is not morality at all. Okay, so how could anybody today support and condone the concept of authority at all vested in government? Because all that is you take the authority that used to be vested in the one dominant male, the king, the warrior, priest, king, etc. Okay, the pharaoh, and you divest that authority, and instead of it being vested in one human being, it's now distributed. That authority is now distributed and divested into an oligarchical group of individuals that refer to themselves as government. That is all that has occurred. It's just a shifting of power from one person to an oligarchical few. Does that make it any more moral? No, it is the same concept. We have to stop euphemizing government authority. It is not just government. It is not just authority. Let's call it what it is. If we're being honest with ourselves, that is a group of people that consider themselves the masters of society, that is giving dictates that they call laws to the rest of their subjects, which are their slaves. All government is, all it ever has been, all it ever will be, is slavery. And it is a euphemized form of slavery. It's what I would refer to as covert slavery, because you're getting the people to believe that they're giving their power to these individuals to basically make these laws and run society, but they don't have that power. See, nobody has the power to command other people. Nobody has the power to say, I'm going to be the ruler of society through these things called laws, and you're going to obey them because I say so, or I'll send people to hurt you or jail you. Okay? If you don't have that power as an individual, then you cannot grant it or delegate it to any other individual or group of individuals. The delegation of a wrong is non-existent. No one can say, oh, well, I can't do this because it's morally wrong, but I can appoint someone else to do it, and then because I made this appointment or delegation, somehow it magically becomes morally right for them to do it. It cannot be done. If you don't have the right to give to someone, you cannot give someone a non-existent right, or in other words, say that I'm approving you to go out and do a morally wrong thing, a morally wrong behavior. And this is what people in our modern society still insist upon believing can be done at all. That's the main problem. They believe authority exists. They don't understand that the concept of authority is slavery, or they don't care. They don't understand that the concept of government is a euphemism for slavery, or they don't care. And as a result of that, they are creating slavery for everyone. They are creating continuous immoral conditions that lead to total disorder, chaos, slavery, and it's going to eventually lead to total destruction and annihilation of our species. And that is the current human condition. The work for us to do as aware individuals who understand that, which I refer to and many other philosophers, esoteric philosophers and researchers in the past have referred to as the great work, is to wake people up to these truths, not opinions, but absolute matter-of-fact truths in nature. You know, the work is to convince them that they are religious believers. See, this isn't a religious belief. This is the objective, natural truth of how reality actually functions. It has zero to do with belief. I am all about a total and absolute destruction of all belief. Belief is the enemy of having true knowledge, period. But belief is what will hold people back from gaining real true knowledge, objective knowledge, okay? And there is such a thing. There is such a thing as objective truth. Objective truth can be known. It can be known with definitiveness and certainty if we do our homework, if we actually apply ourselves. There can be removed all doubt about the fact of whether something is right or wrong, objectively. You know, it's not some nebulous thing that we can never know, that we're always just going to be grasping at, and it's just outside of our reach. No, truth can be known regarding whether behaviors are right, morally right, or morally wrong.
Right.
It is possible. The thing
Right.
is, we have to apply ourselves. That's the first part of the great work, is us coming to that level of understanding and knowledge. Then we have to reach out to other people who still remain ignorant of this dynamic and are doing harm as a result, and are leading to disorder and chaos in society as the manifestations of the human condition as a result of their ignorance. And then we have to help to educate them. And the education process is really a deconditioning, a deprogramming from the social engineering, and it is actually convincing people that what they have subscribed to all along is a false religious belief system, which is what government is. It's a false religious belief system that is actually dangerous to other people who are not its religious adherents. And the definition of a system of belief that is dangerous to people who don't subscribe to that system of belief is a cult. Government is a cult. It is the new world order religion. It is all the old religions have lost their general overarching power to control the whole population, right? No one religion is the king religion that's sitting on top of everything else, dictating to everybody. You know, people have not accepted cultural religions in that aspect anymore, okay, to take orders from like a priest or a pope, okay. That doesn't fly anymore with the population. So the new religion had to be brought out by the kings of old, by the kings of the ancient world. I ask people all the time, do you think people who pillaged the entire world, pretty much confiscated the wealth of all of the people and all of the natural resources of the world to become the royalty of the ancient world, the kings, pharaonic dynasties, etc., of the old world? Do you think they just said, when the people started getting tired of being ruled as slaves and speaking out about it and saying it shouldn't be this way, do you think they just said, yeah, you know what, they got us there, guys, I pack it up, you know, let's pack it all up, We'll just let them be and let them live in peace. Do people really think that's what happened? That they just said, yeah, they're onto the scheme. They don't want to live under a king, and they just said, well, there goes our whole way of life. Even though we have, every single thing in the whole world that has actual intrinsic value, all the natural resources, all of the wealth of all of the nations of the world. We've built that up over all this time as the rulers of the world, right? But we're suddenly going to give it up because now the people say they don't want to live under our rulership. They don't want to be our slaves. Like what happened here in America,
Right.
during the American Revolution. And then all of a sudden they're just going to say, yeah, yeah, the jig is up, guys. Sorry, pack it all in. No, they took all of that unimaginable wealth and they rolled it into brainwashing the population through so-called education to get people to believe that the people that they still control, that they set up as, quote, government, that is being actually still dictated to by them and all their wealth and bought with all of their wealth, is legitimate morally. It's a moral, legitimate thing, and it represents the people's best interests. And this is the new system, and it's not slavery anymore. We're not ruling it from behind the scenes. I mean, how naive does a human being have to be to actually believe that psychopaths like that, who consider themselves representatives of God on earth, kings, rulers of other people, those who just dictate the lives of millions of others, would then suddenly just go, yeah, the people don't want that anymore, and we're just going to go by the wayside.
Yeah.
Forget us. We're
Well,
no. Yeah,
I have
the
two things.
unimaginable
Yeah.
naivete. Yep.
I have
Go
two
ahead.
things to say about it. Is that the social engineers, they know about all this, all natural order, all these principles, and they are targeting care, because the problem is that the people, they don't care. They've been so manipulated into not caring, that all they care about is themselves, their own self security, and all their immediate environment, but they don't care for the greater good. Even though people or the social engineers say it's for the greater good, but actually they don't care for it. Deep down inside themselves, they don't care for it. And the second thing is, I personally think that there was a time with the early kings and pharaohs, that where some extraterrestrial beings were present on Earth, and they have put these people, which maybe have been their offspring, like have demigods, into this position of powers, and people in the populations, they saw them like flying and everything, but they couldn't make any images, or to shall make not no graves and images, but they saw that, so it was pretty should have been pretty much scary for them to see that. So they probably thought that, okay, if that being with such great powers is putting that person to be my king, then it must be a legitimate um, representative of God on earth. And they perpetuated that, by hiding the knowledge that about natural law, and that no one has more rights than anyone else, or no rights to rule. And but with and doesn't really have changed much, since the early pharaoh to until now. Just that now it's not a king, it's called a group of people called government, but it's the same mindset, and the people thinking that they can be a representative of God on earth, like the Pope is the representative of God on earth, but that's one of the most evil person on the planet. So that's pretty much, I think, what makes the people still believe in authority, is that it's been in their, like, in their gene. Even in their genes, with all the manipulation that they made, the people, they don't use much of their genes. Much of our DNA is junk. Much of our brain is not in use because of the manipulation that they did to our DNA. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would
good
refer
points
to it
there.
as disconnected or non-functioning instead of
Hmm.
just junk DNA. But
Hmm.
the principle applies. It's not functioning to its full potential. And if people do look at my cosmic abandonment seminar or presentation, I refer to that as an explanatory synthesis. I don't say this is the definitive historical account of what occurred. I look at it as, if you understand that this is how it may have occurred, things today will make a lot more sense. It will not be something that you're going to go, oh, why are things the way that they are? This can explain why things the way that they are. That's why I call it an explanatory, meaning I'm explaining that this could be the cause. Synthesis, it's a coming together of a lot of different pieces of information that could explain the current human condition. Why we have things like psychopathy, why we have things like government, why we have only two political parties, because in every culture, basically, there's two ruling political parties. There's one party that is the major party in power, and then the opposition party. Well, why is that? It's because there's only two parents. Government has to be set up as the authority figure that we trust, and so it has to represent the parents, mother and father. One political party usually takes on the characteristics of a father. One political party usually takes on the characteristics of a mother. For example, in the United States, the Democratic Party would be the motherly figure, the motherly parental figure that always wants to just take care of people and give them everything that they need. Nurturing, posing as nurturing caregivers, from cradle to grave. And then the Republican Party always wants to be the father figure, you know, disciplinarian, protector. Make sure you're safe, ensure all these safeguard measures, on board with policing, etc. So you could see one is the masculine father figure, one is the feminine motherly figure. It's their proxy parents, they're substitutes for the real thing, because we as individuals have been basically abandoned in some ways parentally, whether the parental figures were absent entirely, partially absent, or absent in their duties, absent in how they raised us, okay, absent in giving us helping us to understand the truth and helping us to become truly moral human beings. Most parents are negligent in that respect, almost all of them, I would say. That's the problem of what perpetuates this current human condition of slavery, is bad parenting. And then cosmically, as a species, we, perhaps could have been abandoned. This is what I postulate in cosmic abandonment, and there's a lot of evidence to suggest that there were beings that visited here, quite possibly were involved in our origins, and then they left. They are no longer here. And then that was a cosmic abandonment of what we saw as not only parental figures but as gods. And again, I'm not saying that this is the definitive absolute way that everything happened, but it's an explanatory synthesis. It's a possibility that should be significantly considered and researched, because it is not just, oh, little green men from the sky. No, it's much more complicated than that, and it takes a lifetime of research to really unravel it and understand what may have really occurred in our ancient past, and what have led to human origins and led to the current human condition that we find ourselves in today. And that definitely has to do with interference from beings that may not have been from here, may not have been human at all. And I think people need to take that seriously. I think it's not something that should be looked at as, oh, this is some wacky conspiracy theory, or this is some way out there fringe thing. It is a very serious topic of discussion that has a lot of evidence to back it. And while I say it's fragmented, that's why, because they've been working so hard to take that out of human, off the table for human consideration. It's fragmented information. So it's difficult to say with scientific certainty that this is how it occurred. But it's not something that I would take like some wacky out there theory. It's something that should be actually looked at and studied in a scholarly way if we're going to really come to an understanding of why human beings act the way that they do. Why is the current human condition so horrific right now? And there's people out there that, even with, like you said, as long as they're comfortable, as long as they're fed, as long as they're clothed, as long as they have a house, roof over their head, they'll take any deplorable condition. They'll accept anything. It's very disconcerting to see that pretty much human freedom of movement and all these dictates that have been happening as part of these lockdowns, and people are still just accepting it. 99.9% of human beings just accepting it without any challenge, without any pushback at all. And it seems like something worse has to happen to humanity for them to finally sit up and say, yeah, we can't take this. It has to get even more uncomfortable. It has to get even more horrific for people to sit up and take notice and just say, I do care. It's, too many people say this is going on and I still don't care. All I care about is my life. Well, maybe if more people don't have food, maybe if more people don't have clothing, maybe if more people don't have shelter, maybe if they become so uncomfortable that there is no option for them to look at these things, then maybe they'll say, hey, this was wrong and we should never allowed this. And my apathy and other people's apathy is what led to this condition. Maybe.
Right. And also the thing is, it's all about pattern recognition, right? Feeling the truth within yourself and aligning yourself with it. It's about recognizing the pattern, and with all the deception that's occurring in the world and all the occulted information, crucial information, people are confused, and they are a lot of difficulties to make linked and see the whole tapestry and make pattern recognition, which even though there is not scientifically proven, it all makes sense in the whole big picture. It all fits right there in the big tapestry, but people, they are deceived and they are confused. So of course it's hard for them. And about the education, it's a cycle. Yes, our parents were not providing us the right education to come to an alignment with truth, to come to an understanding of natural law. We had to do it ourselves. But that's one of the thing with the internet and all these people now, the awakening process currently happening at some level. But it's going to be my next question. But yes, there's still a lot of work to do. Mark, so you have made a multiple assessment in your podcast about the global progress made by humanity towards its awakening to the principles of natural law, as well as the amount of people doing the great work efficiently, qualifying that number as a piss in the pot. You mentioned multiple times that despite our very little progress, the good news is that our future is up to us, since we are the creator of our own condition on earth through exercising our free will, this incredible gift from the creator. However, since most people currently fail to identify the underlying causes of their enslavement and fail to understand their basic natural law rights, all they talk about or worry about are merely treaty effects, such as mandatory masking, vaccine, microchips, curfews, lockdown, riots, economic crisis. By focusing only on effects and not the root causes, they continue to rely on the government, the police, and the military for their protection and safety, creating more slavery and chaos in the world. It's one of the reasons why I started doing the great work, because I saw how far from truth people are living their daily lives and how much they fail to identify the real causes of their problem. And that's why also your teachings, they so resonated within me with the truth, because it's all about the root causes, not the mask is just, it's just the tip of the iceberg. It's not even. So there's this quote attributed to Albert Einstein, which says, no problem can be solved by the same level of consciousness that created it. Would you say that the recent chaotic events in 2020, the socially engineered perceived crisis, will contribute to raise the aggregate level of consciousness and awareness in the general population about their current condition of slavery?
Well, that's a good question, and it remains to be seen. Will this created crisis of the, COVID-19 boogeyman, will that drive more people into awakening? or will it scare most people and just keep them in fear and make them do whatever the government says? I think that still remains to be seen. I think certainly it's making more people who didn't question government authority question it now more than ever before. However, that doesn't mean we're anywhere near any kind of a tipping point figure or percentage. As you said, I don't look at it favorably. I think that we need way more people percentage-wise to flip this in a positive onto a positive track. We're not on a positive track. We are on track to lead for the whole human species to go into abject, overt slavery and destroy ourselves. That's what we're on track to do right now, unfortunately. And that's not naysaying, that's not fear porn, that's not doom. That is an accurate, objective, realistic analysis of where we are at and where we are headed, from a very rational point of view that is looking at it in a detached way. That's what I think I'm very good at, is gauging consciousness. Don't get me wrong, I get upset about it, I get angry about it, I get passionate about it, but to make the analysis of where we are at, no, I look at it in a detached, objective way to see where people are really at in consciousness. And I think I'm quite good at doing that, at performing that analysis from a logical and realistic perspective, not looking at it from the positive side of the coin or the negative side of the coin, but from the realistic aspect of it. And from my analysis, I could tell you that the social engineers have really done their homework and have done a number on people to such an extent that, I mean, a friend of mine was just telling me the other day, he saw a woman in a supermarket that literally would not, was trying to put her items on the conveyor belt, and was literally, because she didn't want to stand close enough to closer to someone else than 6 feet, was like literally extending her arms and like bending forward like that to try to put groceries on the conveyor belt. Like, this is how much people believe this nonsense, that they're in danger, and yet they're out at a supermarket. Like, you think that a little cloth mask or some dust mask is going to protect you from a deadly virus? If it was real, we would see mass death, and people wouldn't be going around other people. They would try to be isolating themselves to whatever extent they can if it was actually a real, true, dangerous, deadly threat. But they believe what the media tells them. Look, I did a social experiment. I think that what most accurately represents where human consciousness is at. I did a social experiment with a friend at a pub here in Philadelphia, in the I guess you could call it the Northern Liberties section of Philadelphia, about a year and a half ago. And my friend and I were there watching another friend band play. They had a gig that night at this pub, which has a music room in the back. And we were sitting out in the general area near the bar after they had finished playing, and we were just talking. And she said to me, well, I really think people are kind of waking up, and this is long before all this happened. This is like during false flag shootings every week, when that was going on, here in America, and she goes, I think people are getting it, that the media is just totally manipulating us. And, I think people are waking up. And I turned to her, I'm sitting there drinking a beer with her, and I turned around, I'm like, what planet are you living on? Like, you actually believe that more and more people are getting it and waking up and don't trust the media, especially here in the United States? I'm like, okay, maybe that might be the case some other places, that they know that the media is a fraud and a hoax, and they know that they're paid propagandists and liars and deceivers. But I said, you really believe that is happening here, especially where we live? We live in one of the most liberal, garbage cities in the entire world. Philadelphia is one of the most corrupt cities on the planet, on earth, period. Not just in Pennsylvania, not just on the eastern coast of the United States, not just the whole United States, not just in North America, but the whole earth. Philadelphia is one of the most corrupt cities on the planet, probably only right behind New York and Chicago. It's probably third in the world, okay? And I'm leaving out like obvious totalitarian places like China, North Korea, etc. Obviously, they're far, far worse. But in what we are calling the Western civilization, I'd say New York, Chicago, and Philadelphia are probably the three. They're the unholy triumvirate. You know, of course, you got to include Washington D.C., but that's relatively small by comparison. Anyway, I said, "You think that's true, especially here?" And she said, "Yeah, I do. I think most people don't believe the media anymore." I said, "Well, let's, do an experiment and find out. Let's not just speculate about it. Why don't you go around, ask everybody here if they believe that the mainstream media is making an honest effort to tell people the truth on the nightly news every day. Just phrase the question just like that. Just go around and say, I'm doing a little experiment for a documentary we're putting on. We're trying to get some numbers. Can I ask you one quick question? Do you think that the mainstream media in America is actively trying to tell people the truth from a genuine perspective? They want the truth put out there, and they're trying to tell people what the truth is to the best of their ability. That's it. Ask that one question. So there was about 50 people in this pub, and she went around to every single person in the whole place, including the bartenders and wait staff, and asked them all, do they think the media is making their best effort to try to bring the truth to the public? And I don't know what the exact figure was. I said it's around 50. It could have been like 48, 49, 50, 51, something like that. It was in that general ballpark, okay? But other than me and her, who know that it's fraudulent, know that it's total deceit and deception and lies and paid propaganda, other than us two people that were not counting with the other 50 people that were asked, do you know what the percentage was? You know what the numbers were? Every single person other than me and her said the media is there to tell us the truth, and that's what they're trying to do. And we trust that that's what they're trying to do, and they're attempting to do that to the best of their ability. If it was 49, let's say it was 49 people that were polled, 49 out of 49 said that result. Not one other individual in the entire place, other than me and her, thought that the media were paid propagandist liars. So just think about that number. If 2 out of 50 people, let's say it was we're 2 and there it's 48, okay? That means that maybe 4% of the population has some inkling, has some general awareness.
Number.
And guess what? We're nowhere near that. If we weren't there that night, it would have been, if it was, let's say 48, it would have been 50 out of 50. It just so happens that because we are somewhat enlightened individuals, that we were there that night and we skewed that number to 4%. It's way less than that. It's way less than 1%. Because people are brainwashed. They believe what they hear on the nightly news. They believe that these people are not satanic, pedophile protecting, absolute deceivers that will take a paycheck and will take money just to lie to people. And that's what the media is. That's what the mainstream media is. That's all they ever have been. Yeah. That's all they are now. That's all they ever will be until they're taken down, until they're stopped.
My take on that is that, the media, the problem is also they use the confusion because they report some true, that there are some news that are real. Like, for example, if they report a fire or some murder that happened, so that people, they are able to verify that information. So there are some truth. So when they put some false information, then people are confused and they cannot make the difference between what's right and wrong. So that's where people they have confidence and they believe in what the news anchor is saying with a nice tone. Also helps. And the other thing about the poll you made on the bar is that you would have probably the same results if you would have asked the people, where do your rights come from?
Yep. Oh, we've done this. Yeah,
99% would say
experiment as well.
Comes from the government, comes from the Constitution. So again, that really shows that people they don't know the very basic thing about themselves,
when
And
we did that experiment, Dominic, we did that social experiment as well. We asked about 100 people, where do your rights come from? And only 1 in 4, about 25%, said that they come from nature, the creator of the universe, God, etc. That's it, 1 in 4. 75% of our population believes rights come from humanity in some form, whether they come from just ourselves, whether we make them up, right? Or whether we're given to them or granted them by government. That's it. 75%, 3 out of 4. So if people believe that rights come from human beings, then people believe by extension that rights can be taken away by human beings, and they would have no problem with that. See, that's how it works. If your rights come from human beings, then by definition, you believe that rights can be removed from human beings because that which can be given can be taken away. Rights don't come from human beings. Rights come from the creator of the universe. Rights come from nature. That's it. It comes from the universe itself, from the natural world, from the force that put the universe into place and created all of its laws, both seen and unseen laws, both physical laws and laws that affect behavior, that govern behavior, okay, which are unseen laws, okay?
right.
And that's it. The rights that are given by creation can't be taken away by creation, and they can't be taken away by other human beings. That's it.
Nor
They're our
delegated,
birthright.
nor
That's it.
delegated.
That's right.
Yeah, so I'm gonna finish with a little horror story. I know you're a gun enthusiast, and you know that every person has the right to own guns. And recently in Canada, in March, the government of Canada they passed almost secretly a ban on assault rifles, and which penalize mostly honest citizen who rightfully own them, and go shoot at the range and everything. um, and also I heard in the news recently that all the police forces all across Canada are buying the same assault rifles for themselves in large numbers. So the gun ban was in March, when there was a lot of confusion, and the social engineer perceived crisis began, really. So they used that kind of confusion to pass the gun ban, and then they purchased the guns for themselves. And one of my friend who have been practicing martial arts for many years with me, is practice the kendo, which is the martial art of Japanese sword fencing. He's a fourth dan of the black belt, like me, myself, and he's a gun enthusiast too. He trains the police. He's a civilian, but he trains the police and military, and he's really highly skilled instructor. So one day on Facebook, he posted, "Oh, I'm glad that Biden's elected." And I'm like, Biden's gonna come for your guns, even though it's in the U.S. He's gonna attack the Second Amendment for sure. He said it outright. He said it publicly. So if they target the gun rights in the U.S., of course, it's gonna happen also in Canada, even worse.
Sure.
That's currently happening. So I was telling, they're gonna come for your toys, and he said to me, "Yeah, you said it. They are just toys." I was horrified, because that was the person in my head that could understand the secret principle of self-defense, which practiced martial arts. He's a gun enthusiast, but still he told me that guns are just toys. And I was horrified.
That's
You
a
know,
person who really doesn't understand the philosophy that should underlie all martial arts. Martial means related to Mars, the god of war and death. You know, it's like if you don't understand real self-defense, people have no business really even playing with martial arts. See, it doesn't mean that the martial arts are a toy. It doesn't mean guns are toys. What that means is, in his mind, those are toys to him. And all that does is say what he really thinks as a matter of respect regarding those things, and by extension of himself. That's a person that doesn't really have deep self-respect and self-love, because if you did, you would not consider your means of self-defense toys. You would consider them things that preserve your life, preserve your value system, preserve the lives of those who you care about around you. Okay,
Integrity,
yeah, your
freedom.
principles, your freedom, your freedom and your principles. And all I have to say is anybody who is anti-gun is anti-human. Anybody who is against self-defense in any way with any weapon is a traitor to all humanity. Let me just say that again, unequivocally and definitively.
Go ahead.
Anyone who is against any form of self-defense with any weapon is a traitor against all humanity. I don't know how much more strongly I could possibly word any sentence.
And
Okay,
it hates
that's
itself.
what someone is.
It
They're
hates itself.
self-loathing, no self-respect, no understanding of natural law, no understanding of the self-defense principle or the non-aggression principle, probably for that matter, because they would probably advocate that aggressive things be done to people with weapons and who own guns, etc., and who take it very seriously and aren't going to give up their rights no matter what laws are passed. Okay, and they would advocate for violence to be done to people like that, probably with guns. That's what most gun control advocates are anyway. They're people who advocate for violence to be done to peaceful people with guns. So here's all I have to say about that. The people who are going to try to enforce any of that, if and when it does come down from whatever politician or whatever would-be tyrant, you're going to have to make a decision, because I'll tell you one thing. I would not think twice about taking anybody's life that comes from my means of self-defense without any hesitation and without one pause as far as my own conscience is concerned. It would be an immediate reaction. And guess what? You might get me, but I guarantee you somebody's going to have to spend their life to do it. You better be willing to spend your life, because you're going to have to spend your life to get it done. That's all I have to say.
Amen.
And guess what? Most people here in America feel that way. And if they do try it, it's going to be a Pyrrhic victory, if it's a victory at all, because so much blood will be spilt to get that done that it will blanket the world in blood, not just America. Trust me. Hear me. Really hear what I'm saying when I say that, because I'm telling you, I'm tame when it comes to this dynamic compared to some of the barbarians here in America. You don't understand. People don't understand the powder keg they will be opening up. It will be a bomb that explodes in their face, and I mean quite literally.
And people, they would say like, this guy has so much hate inside himself to think to talk like that. But actually, it's love. It's because they don't understand what love is.
They don't understand
Ultimately,
love. They don't understand
love.
freedom. Right.
They don't understand freedom, because if you truly love yourself, you will have self-preservation, and you will defend your life with the necessary force.
Dominic,
it's not
I'm
about
doing an
violence.
interview
It's
right
not
now.
about hate.
I'm doing an interview right now to try to teach the basic principles of natural law to people and discuss the human condition. I have 3 firearms in this room as I speak right now, in this little room. Okay? So, I take my self-defense very seriously, because I think what I have to say is unimaginably valuable to all of humanity. And what I have said is unimaginably valuable to all of humanity if it is received and understood correctly. And so I care about myself. I care about that message reaching other people, and I'm going to defend myself up to and including deadly force if the time comes when someone takes my life, rights, or property without right. And if it's not a right to them, I'm defending myself, possibly with deadly force. I might choose to do it with non-deadly force if I don't consider it a deadly threat. But guess what? If it's a deadly threat, I'm going to defend myself with deadly force. That's it. And that's everyone's right to do so. That's nobody talking violently. That's a right. That's your right to do so. That's everyone's right to do so, because everyone has the same rights. The problem is they're just not understood. People don't understand self-defense. You know, here's, I want to just briefly talk about, in an addendum to that, my attitude about martial arts in general, because I know you study martial arts. I do. You have for many years. I have for a few years. Okay. And, you know, the whole thing with that is there's not this philosophy of freedom in the martial arts community, sadly. I see it all the time. People like are pro-cop, you know, they're pro-government, they pick a political party. They don't understand natural law in the martial arts community at all. We need martial arts teachers who are going to learn natural law and then teach it in that martial arts environment, and then choose to teach people who are in harmony with natural law and start refusing to teach people who violate natural law and have no business being taught. You know, if you would say that person says, I want to learn martial arts, teachers who know natural law and know that this person's not in alignment with it say, learn natural law first, then come back to me, show me that you're in alignment with it, and then I'll teach you martial arts. If not, go learn from someone else. That's
Right.
what needs to happen in the martial arts community. And guess what? The martial arts community is nowhere near that. They're nowhere near the understanding of that. They don't understand objective morality. It's very sad. Even all of the, seminars that I have been to, objective morality is not even discussed. Natural law is not even brought up. Lots of cops are being taught. Lots of people in the military are being taught. It's not a good thing. It's not a good state. The martial arts community needs to reevaluate itself in that regard. And I would say that with any art. It doesn't matter what the art is, whether it's karate, jeet kune do, gung fu, whatever. It doesn't make a difference. Okay. Sword fighting, any weapons training, doesn't make a difference what the art form is. Muay Thai, etc. All of it needs to be reevaluated and be taught an underlying philosophy of morality first. Because if you understand the non-aggression principle and you understand that nobody should be aggressing upon anybody else to initiate harm against them, their rights, their property, their life, their freedom, then you would understand why self-defense needs to be taught and what it needs to be taught for defense against. See, that's the whole thing. And, the whole philosophy of especially Jeet Kune Do, which is what I've been studying, for the most part recently. It's this idea that, it's literally translated as the way of the stopping fist, but that's a very mechanical translation. I offer a more organic translation that really gives to the person who's understanding who's doing the translation of the words Jeet Kune Do, a more philosophical understanding of what the philosophy that underlies it means. I call it, instead of the way of the stopping fist, right? It's the way to stop the fist that is coming at you in aggression, that is coming at you without right? So then if you just translate that connotatively a little bit more, it's the way to stop aggression. That is what it really means connotatively, looking at it, translating it from the spirit of the words, right? It's not just means, fist, stop, etc. Way. These are too literal in the original Chinese words that are used to create the name of that art form. I think we should start looking at it as, which is what all the martial arts really are. The overarching philosophy of all martial arts is the way to stop aggression. Notice I didn't say the way to start aggression. The way to stop aggression. The method for stopping aggression. That is what you are there to learn when you study and learn martial arts. If you're being taught by a true Sifu, a true learned person, a true master of that art form, okay? You are there to learn the methods that need to be employed to stop aggression. And that means any method that can stop the aggression. It doesn't mean that there are rules in that. That's why it's called the death arts. That is why it is called the martial arts, after Mars, god of war, So once that initial, aggressive action is taken, then all bets are off. Then you are to learn and employ whatever method is necessary for stopping someone else's unrightful aggression against your life, rights, and property. That's it. That's what all martial arts is about, in whatever form that it is. And we need a complete reevaluation in the martial arts community to help
Right.
people to understand that philosophy more deeply.
Right. With my experience, people there, they don't teach or they don't know the difference also with it between force and violence.
That's right.
And they don't they don't understand. They watch a Bruce Lee movie or whatsoever, and they think it's cool, and they start doing martial art without having the proper mindset behind it. And same thing with the people. Most people are do kendo with. They take it as a sport,
Right.
a hobby,
Right.
but they don't, even if they've been practicing for 10, 15, 20 years,
Yep.
they still don't get the mindset. But because there's a lot of Asian mentality also behind that, we're not going to fall into that. But the principle of self-defense has to be known, has to be taught. And because we're under attack,
That's right.
right now, so people must defend themselves. It's pretty much all the time we had. I could have talked for hours with you. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate. It's been an awesome time, an awesome moment. Thank you very much for promoting also my website. I really appreciate that, and I look
Absolutely.
forward to a lot of more collaboration in
Yes.
future projects. Thank you very much for your time, and also good luck for your current projects. I'm not gonna take much time. I know you have a lot of
Yes.
stuff to do, so thank you very much,
Dominic,
Mark. I appreciate it.
thank you so much. For those who want to check out more of my work, you can visit my main website, whatonearthishappening.com. We're going to be launching the One Great Work Network next year, and my documentary, Mark Passio and the Science of Natural Law, will also be available sometime early in 2021. Dominic, thank you so much for what you do with your work to put the great work out there for others in Truth or Consequence. And thank you for bringing me on the show today. I enjoyed it, and let's do it again soon.
Thank you, Mark.
Take care.
Bye.
The way to stop tyranny is not to cooperate with it. It's not to fight it, not to cooperate with it, because there's not enough of them in a government. Like I said the other day, fascism is not imposed by fascists. There's not enough of them. Fascism is imposed by the population acquiescing to fascism. That's how it comes in. That's what happens in every tyranny, every tyrannical revolution.